Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm sure that the previous video that contained the part 1 of methods in Python arrays was interesting and informative. Now let's move on to another part of this, which will cover some of the advanced methods in Python arrays. So I would like you all to first watch the part 1 before starting with the part 2. So let's continue with the next method. So here we have the method named as item size. So the name itself tells that this particular method returns the size of each element inside the array. Note that it does not return the size of the array, it returns the size of each element. So let's have a look at the implementation of it and see what result we get. So here we have the same array that we have took in the previous video also. We have two different arrays. First, the ARR variable contains the elements of integer type, and the next AR variable contains the array of Unicode type. So now the syntax says that you need to first write the variable name. Here I am going to use the variable which contains the array of integer type dot the item size. Now you can see that the item size method does not take any parameter, and you can see it has written the value 4. Now why it had written this particular value? So basically you can see that this is an array of integer type elements, and an integer element is associated with 4 bytes of memory. Make a note that whatever value this particular method is going to return, that will be in bytes. Now you can see that the variable AR contained the elements of the type Unicode. So it has returned that the element is associated with a size of 2 bytes, because a character in Python language is associated with 2 bytes of memory. I hope you have got this. You can try for some other types of elements in an array and use this particular method. Now let's move on to the next method, which is toFile. So now let's have a look at what this particular method does. So you can see that it writes all the elements to the file object in Python as machine values. So it is going to convert the elements inside the array into machine values, for example binary or any other type, and it is going to store it inside the file object. So it is going to become convenient for you to store that particular array in some other format. So let's have a look at how we can implement this in Python. So here we have defined an array of 10 elements of integer type. Now we are going to store all these elements inside the file object. So for that we have to create an object, and here I have defined the variable f, which will store the file object. So I'm going to use open function in Python. So you can see that this particular function takes two parameters. First is the name of the file in which you need to store that particular array. So here I'm going to initialize the name as @glance.txt. txt is the extension which is going to create a file of the type text. Next parameter is going to be the mode that we need to define. So here I am defining WB. It means that write binary. It is going to create a file for us. You can see in the left hand side we have got our file created, which is named as @glance.txt, and now this particular file is empty file. Now we are going to write all these elements from the array into this particular file @glance.txt. So let's do that. So you can see that we have stored all these elements inside the variable ARR. So we will call this particular method through that variable. So ARR.toFile, and this particular toFile method is going to take a single parameter, which is nothing but the variable in which we have stored the file object that we have created, which is f. So once I execute this, it has got executed successfully, and now we can see that in our file still we haven't got our data. So how we can see that? So let's have a look at it. So till now our file was opened in the write mode. We haven't opened it in the read mode. So now let's open that file in the read mode. So again we are going to initialize the variable f, inside which we will be defining the same file name with the mode rb. It is nothing but read binary. Now you can see that the cell has got executed successfully. Now we have a function associated with the variable in which we have stored the file object f.read, and this is going to print the content that is present inside that particular file object. And now you can see inside the file we have this particular content in binary format. Now you won't be able to read this because this is in binary format, but don't worry, all of the elements of that particular array are present inside that file object. Just the thing is they are in binary format. We can retrieve this from the next method that we are going to look, which is nothing but from file. I hope to file is clear. Now let's move on to the extraction of this binary material from that particular file object into our code editor, which can be done with the help of the from file function. So basically it reads the items from the file object and it is going to append all of the content to the end of the array. If the array is empty, then it is going to feed all the content of that particular file object inside the array. Otherwise, if the array is not empty, then in that case it is going to append the content at the end of the array. So now I am sure that it is clear. So let's have a look at the implementation of it. So if you remember, we had created an array and we have stored it in the file object which was named as f. You can see that the content is still there in the text file which was named as @glance.txt. Now our task is to retrieve the content present inside this @glance.txt file and append it into the array. So for retrieving and storing the content from the file object, I am creating a new variable array1 in which I'll be storing the elements of the integer type. So you can see that our variable has got created of the type array. Now we are going to use the method from file. So this particular from file method is going to take two parameters. First is the file object, the file in which the content is stored, and next is the number of elements that you want to store from that particular content. So let's say we want first four elements 1, 2, 3, 4 from that particular file. So for doing that we need to first write the name of the file object, which is f, and next parameter will be 4. So let's run this. It has got executed successfully. Now we will print the array1 and check whether we are getting the correct output. Now you can see that we have got the correct results and the array contains the same elements which were present inside the original array. I hope you have understood. Now let's try to define another array of variable name array2, and this array is of integer type. So array2 dot from file, in this we are going to write the first parameter as f, which is the file object, and second is the number of parameters that we want to retrieve from that particular file. So let's say we want to retrieve the next 5 elements. So if we mention 5 over here, so it is not going to retrieve the first 5 elements because it was already retrieved in the first variable that we created, which was array1. Now since first 4 elements were already retrieved from the file, now it is going to retrieve the next 5 elements from it. So the elements from 5 to 9 will be retrieved and stored in the variable array2. So you can see the output is same as what we have discussed now. Now first 9 elements are already retrieved. Now let's try to retrieve more elements from that particular file which are actually not present inside that file, because the length of the array was 10, and now we will try to retrieve the content of length which is more than the content which is present inside the array. So you can see, let's say we define that we want to retrieve the further 5 elements from the array. Now already we have retrieved the first 9 elements and only single element 10 was left inside that particular file. But since we have written over here that we want to retrieve the next 5 elements, they are not present, and therefore it has thrown an error that it cannot return that particular size because the file doesn't contain that particular length of content. I hope it is clear to you all. So now we are done with the most important methods of Python arrays. Now we will be exploring some more functions that can be performed on Python arrays. So these are nothing but inbuilt functions and we are going to explore all of them one by one. So we already have the variable in which the array of 10 elements is stored. These elements are of integer types. Now let's start with the first function which can be performed on this variable arr, which is max function. The name itself tells that it is going to retrieve the maximum value from that particular list of elements. So you can see that from our given array the maximum value is 10. Hence 10 is retrieved. You don't have to write manual code for this, it is already built in Python. Similarly, there is min function which is going to retrieve the element of the most minimum value, which is 1. Hence 1 is retrieved as the answer. I hope it is clear to you all. Now let's move on to another function that can be performed on arr variable, which is length function. Len represent length. So basically this particular function is going to return the length of the array. You can see that we have total 10 elements inside the variable arr and the same output we have got from the length function. I hope you have got this. Now let's move on to the next function in Python language, which is list function. So I hope that you remember that in the previous video we have seen one function that was toList. The toList function was also doing the same task, which is nothing but to convert the list of array into the type list. The same goes for this list function. This is also going to convert the entire array of elements into the list type. The reason behind using this particular function is that we can perform multiple operations on this particular type list, which we hardly can easily perform on the type array. Next, we have tuple function. The tuple function is going to convert the type array into the type tuple. The reason behind conversion of this is because the type tuple is immutable. That means the elements inside the tuple cannot be changed once it is defined. Hence, it makes it more secure than the list or the array data type. Hence, we use this particular function. Next, we have set function. The name itself tells that it is going to convert the array into the type set. The reason behind doing this is that sometimes we might want to remove all the repeated elements from that particular list of elements. So in that case we can use the set function so that the entire set will no longer have any repeated elements. The next function that we can perform on arrays is str, which represents string. It is going to convert the entire array into the form of string. Now you can see that along with the elements, it is also going to convert the word array with all the brackets and the type code of it into the form array, so that you can just extract the list of elements in the form of string. If I try to store it in a variable a and if I try to slice this particular string, then I will be able to do that. You can see that I have sliced the first 10 characters, then in that case it has sliced the first 10 characters. Now the concept of slicing is already discussed in the previous videos. I already have made two parts of this particular slicing concept. You can check my array playlist for that. I have covered from basics and also have solved some of the most advanced examples of that particular slicing concept. So have a look at that particular video. Now next function is the memory view function. So basically this memory view function is going to return the address in which the variable arr is stored. Basically it returns where your array is stored inside the memory location. So this is the use of this memory view function. I hope it is clear to you. Next we have bool function. Bool is a data type in Python which can have two values, either true or false. So now if we try to put our ARR variable inside the bool function, it is returning the value true. The reason behind this is that the variable ARR is containing something inside it, which is nothing but the list of elements. It is not empty. And if a particular array is not empty, then in that case, it is going to return the bool type as true. You can see that I have created one more array, which is an empty array, and I have stored it in a variable a. And if I check the boolean type of it, then it has returned false boolean type. So I hope it is clear. The next function is not function. So basically this not function is related to boolean values. If a particular value is true, then this not function is going to make or change that particular value to false. If the value is false, then it is going to change it to true. You can see that the variable ARR was having the value true. Now since we apply the not function to it, its value has become false. Similarly, the variable a was empty, hence it was having the value false. Now if we apply not function to it, it has become true. I hope this particular bool function as well as not function is clear to you all. Along with that, I hope all other functions are also clear. I hope you have understood all of them. If you like my videos, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Also hit the bell icon and don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Thank you.